Well, good evening out there in Facebook land, YouTube, and Twitter. Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Bridge Podcast. Tonight we have a great topic to talk about. Something that we don't usually talk about is men's mental health. But we, with these trying times these days and what's going on, we really feel that we need to open up more and get a real conversation and dialogue to help us through these some of these issues that we as men face nowadays and some of the issues we had in the past. So we got I would say an all-star panel, but we're gonna start right up top. Well, I don't know how they got y'all situated, but we're gonna go with you first, B. Brandon.
Okay, well, my name is Brandon Vega. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm grateful to be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation. And like I said, I'm the founder of the Eaton Project. I started the Eaton Project about 5 or 6 years ago. Eaton is the acronym for Exist Above the Noise, and as we get into the conversation, we'll be able to, tap into that a little bit and how it relates to, mental health and how I apply it in my everyday life to, get through. So thank you again for having me.
Okay. And then we gonna come on around to Mr. Fields. Could you introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, I can. As To echo some of what he said, I would like to thank you all for having me tonight to speak about this matter. I'm a passionate mental health advocate. I do a lot of community service. I'm a public servant by nature. I do a lot of community service here in Atlanta, Georgia, as the president of the Emerging 100 of South Metro Atlanta. We had several mental health events that focuses around brain and mental health. So I am happy and looking forward to this conversation as well.
Okay. And then we're gonna come down to Mr. Simpkins, Mr. Simpson. Could you introduce yourself to the people? Is the camera frozen? It might be frozen. Yep. We'll come back. Okay. And the world renowned Mr. Chef Irie, let the people know who you are if that for those who don't.
What's good? Everybody, welcome again. We in the house. I'm Chef Irie. Yes, chef for all peoples and all cuisine and all events here in South Florida, and I travel as well. So um, we gonna knock it up, mix it up, talk about that mental health because it's surely important, especially amongst us Black men.
Okay. And now we're coming back to you, my brother. See if he is all in order now. Could you introduce yourself to the people?
Sorry, y'all. Good night. My name is Giancarlo Simpson. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm also an educator. I teach at Lynn University, proud FAU alumni. I currently do therapy out of CMC Therapy, which is in Davie, and also do Dr. Tenney and Associates, which is also in Fort Lauderdale. So I try to have a range as far as what I do for my services. That's it. I'll say it quick. I'm hoping that this Wi-Fi holds on because it's raining up here in Deerfield. So happy to be here though.
Okay. All right. So everybody, well, let me introduce myself. I'm James Howard, the co-host of The Bridge and the producer of the show. I'm also in the video production field, so I do a lot of stuff production wise. But we're gonna get this topic rolling. So I'm gonna ask you fellas, what does mental health mean to you? Either one of y'all can jump in to begin with.
I think the man with the T-shirt that says health wellness should jump in first.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. My apologies. But as you mentioned, yes, mental health is mental wealth. My definition of mental health is the sanity that you need, the peace that you need, whatever it takes, whether it's self-care days, whether it's vacationing, whether it's spending time with family. Mental health to me is whatever it takes for you to maintain your peace and sanity. I don't think that there's a solid definition for as far as what it takes to maintain it, but that's what mental health is to me.
It's pretty good.
It's on me. I was gonna let the mental health guys go first, but I believe that like the gentleman said, mental health has no solid definition. There's no one thing that can define it. Mental health is different for everybody. All our minds work differently on the way we think, the way we feel. All those things work in its own way. So based on our experiences, our traumas, and things of that nature, that's what builds up, the way we think of the world and the way we see the world. So I just think that, it's important to, like you said, take time for yourself to, gather your thoughts and gather yourself together to be able to, get through each day because, with having a cluttered mind and, having a lot of things going on, upstairs, it can make life a little bit, more difficult. So, just taking care of your mind, your body and your soul is very important. And that's how I would sum it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I look at mental health. I think in a combination of the ways that you all shared just now, and another way I see it is also mental health is also accountability, like personal accountability, taking on a personal challenge, what it really means to go through this healing process, because it's not always going to be pretty. And sometimes when I say it's not always going to be pretty, it could come up in the forms of practicing self-care. For some people, they're so doing work and just being very active, they don't know how to take care of themselves, and they feel uncomfortable when they do that. So I look at mental health as a way to kind of hold yourself accountable and challenge yourself to do something different, something that you probably should do for yourself, but you just haven't yet.
All right. Ari, your take on it?
My take, real simple. A place that I can exist between shoot. The place that I can exist, where there is balance and peace. I think for me, of course, mental health, transcends so many different things. But for me, where I'm able to find that place, that's a centered place. There's, things are not overwhelming for me. And it just feels like you're grounded, and I think most of us, need some grounding right now, especially coming out of the traumatic experience, most of last year and some this year too, which I'm sure we'll get into too as well. So yeah, that's what it is. Balance and peace.
Okay.
I see my buddy D Tron, he agrees with me. Balance, not too high, not too low.
Yeah. Well, I would ask. Let me I'm putting the chat in there so everybody can see what out there in
Chat
on
man.
Chatland streaming. I want to ask this question. We know mental health seems to be taboo in our community. Why do you feel it's that way for us? And I would go with Mr. Simpson.
All right, so there's many different reasons. I think one of the ones that's pretty common or commonly discussed is for most of us, church is where we get our therapy. And thankfully enough now, I think the church has been a lot more with the importance of mental health. But there's a lot of traditional people that come with the idea that, you could pray away, whatever's going on in your life. And people don't realize that when we think of mental health or therapy, it's in addition to what you're already doing in the process, right? Like I tell people all the time, like faith without works is dead. You can pray all you want, but at the same time, you still got to do the work, and the work can come in the form of doing therapy. So I think there's been a disconnect, and there's a slow process of reconnecting the idea of therapy in the Black community in that way. Another part about it too is just in the taboo, the idea of mental health or mental illness is usually sided with shame, guilt, a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation of what it really means. So a lot of families, a lot of people within these families don't want to talk about it. They want to bring it up. It's something that's they feel uncomfortable with or ashamed about. And then how we see it in the media, TV. You think that when we think about therapy service and having a psychotic issue, whatever it is, that they're in a straight or they're crazy, that's really not the case. I just think we've held to that stigma or that stereotype for a very long time. And that's unfortunately impacted us with our ability to actually seek services when we need to. I had families that I worked with, and I had kids that should have been diagnosed with ADHD. And the mom would tell me straight up, that's just not what we do, right? Like, we don't talk about mental health stuff. And I was like, well, your son gets in trouble every day. And the reason why he can't get a pass or get any help from the school is that he doesn't have a document to say what he's dealing with. So all the teachers are treating him differently when they shouldn't. So I think it's time for us to really start shifting away from that, because other people that don't look like us get services and treat this very, very seriously as far as getting the help that they need. And I think we need to start shifting to that direction.
Before you ask your next question, James, or before anybody else respond, just real quickly. You mentioned two words, Simpson. Mental health and mental illness. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to sort of know the difference. If there's such a difference to people out there, because I think a lot of people, especially when you're talking now about the stigma and the trauma, I think everybody associates mental health with mental illness,
right?
So we need to make sure that we make a break between the two.
Absolutely. I think when we talk about mental health, at least in my mind, when people say mental health, I think about mental wellness. Well, as you guys explained it to everybody what it means to, comes off to me more like mental wellness, the things that I'm doing to be a good state of mind or a state emotionally and physically. The mental health, I look at it as more of an umbrella statement that encompasses the wellness and the illness. It's just that most of us that don't really know think about it as the illness. Like when you say mental health, it's like, oh man, like, about mental illnesses, we think about that can be diagnosable, or things that are issues that can be mediated with if you have like a counselor or a coach. So if we're looking at like severe illnesses, those are things that impact your everyday functioning, right? Like if you're depressed, that's one thing. We go through depression, we go through periods of sadness, all that stuff. That's normal. However, if your periods of sadness last a long time and it impacts your everyday functioning, it stops you from being able to go to work, from brushing your teeth, from doing these normal things that keeps you moving. That's where we have a real issue that we have to look into. But mental illness in itself is a spectrum in itself, and I think people really need to understand that is something that should not be misinterpreted as like mental health or wellness. So I appreciate you for bringing that part up for clarification.
Yes.
So, Jared, you can pick up where he left off. Yeah, you're on mute still. Nope. Okay, hold on. Nope, it's still.
Who's muted? Muted.
Okay, I see the problem. Your internet signal is very low. I'm gonna come back to you. Go to the B.
I need to pass that infrastructure deal. We all need some Wi-Fi.
So,
This is what they're killing people.
and that was one thing I was saying about. I was like, man, is this gonna mess with the interfere with the show tonight? The weather, how's popping off down here? Let me ask you this: if you have mental illness, does it mean that you have to be on medication?
No. There are, like, again, there are severe cases in which you probably need medication, but there are other cases that can be treated through counseling and therapeutic services. It doesn't always lead to worry that when they're dealing with a mental illness, that it automatically means that we put medication, and that's not always the case. Nah.
Okay. So we pop back. I need to get pop back. So B, what do you feel? Have you ever dealt with somebody that you felt like they had a mental illness in their life, but they didn't want to recognize it?
Well, yeah, I could, speak to that, firsthand. One of my cousins was diagnosed schizophrenia. So, I don't know, schizophrenic or however I apologize if I'm messing up the, way to say that. Man. Just growing up with him and just, always noticing, a slight difference in, the way, he operated and the way some of us, operated. But at the same time, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, when it comes to a lot of this mental health, all of this stuff, all this stuff is new to me in the sense of like it's all being brought to the forefront. I always knew, there were certain things that, were taking place in our community. And I always knew that, hey, the way I'm feeling and stuff like that, like the brother said, these negative connotations that get put on all these things and the stigma that get put on, these labels, you don't want to wear them. So, you kind of avoid, certain issues and certain problems that you may be facing because you don't even know what it is. When I hear, mental health and all of that stuff, I feel like, we all at some point, go through things where, we're being challenged mentally. And again, when we think of health, we, think of, wanting to be on the positive side of health opposed to, being on the bad side. That's why we exercise and do the things we do to stay in shape or to get better than we already are. So, mental health is, for me, just exercising the mind and like, again, like it was also said, just having that balance, finding the balance between, not being too high with the high and not being too low with the low, and just trying to basically get in where you fit in. So, again, when I think about, my cousin and, things of that nature, I see him as a normal functioning human being. But again, he was diagnosed as something that, is way above my pay grade to kind of really, speak on because I don't know much about it. But I do know that, again, like these labels and stuff, scare people from wanting to be, labeled, something attached to them, So again, like we try to like, downplay certain issues and certain problems that some of our family members or peers, or children, may have. And there's nothing wrong with, addressing certain things and getting it taken care of because it's better to address these things early and get on top of them before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, and these labels can help, just like you mentioned, man. These labels can help you get help. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that really do need additional help and services, and we choose not to because we don't want to have a quote unquote label, but that label really doesn't impact us the way we think it is. You can still work, you can still have access to doing all the things you need to do for the most part. What it now means is there's a backstory to how we interact with you and how we can be careful and care for you, out of respect for what you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And that's very important because now that we understand, or now that some of us understand what you're going through, what you're really dealing with, especially for my kids, my students, like they can now get certain documentation resources on campus, gives them a little more leeway in the classroom so they can submit their papers a little later if they need to because they're dealing with all the stress. It gives a to a lot of students and a lot of people that honestly need it. I think Mr. People has made some other good points as well. I mean, I can go down a rabbit hole with all those points. I just want to keep it simple today. But I mean, he's right about the over masculinity, the culture in that in itself, the disparity in terms of healthcare and how that's been promoted on one spectrum, on one group of demographic compared to the other, right? Like mental health was really promoted in one community and really and we kind of held on to that, unfortunately. And now we're working to kind of dispel that. And these conversations are very helpful. But mental health facilities and prisons, criminal, there's a lot of other issues that factor into why it's not just taboo, but it's hard for us to really reach the community the way we need to when it comes to mental health.
I will ask this right quick to you fellas. How did with D-Tron bringing that up? How do you think masculinity affects our community on the mental health tip?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
We don't have to lip read.
right, exactly. Well, I'm glad to be back, by the way. But what I would say, and I've been able to still listen in and hear everybody. Everybody made very great and very valid points. What I was going to say earlier was about another part of the taboo is that mental health is too expensive. Is that therapy is too expensive, that they can't afford it. People get it for whatever reason, get in this mindset feeling like, oh, it's just another bill, when in actuality, it's affordable, especially now they have more options that you can use that's more affordable and more helpful. As far as the answer is what the role that masculinity plays in society, unfortunately, you have a lot of us men, I'm just saying a lot of men were told that we shouldn't show any signs of emotion, and we were told that we shouldn't show any signs of weakness. So what we do is that we allow our masculinity to hold it all in. We allow our masculinity to rather than seek help, try to hold it in and try to deal with it on our own. And then unfortunately, you have a lot of people who will end up breaking down, or have a lot of people who will end up boiling over. I personally deal with anxiety, and I had to learn that you have to let it out. You have to have your different methods, your different, and of course, I know we have a professional on the panel that can speak more to it, but I know there are different steps and different ways to deal with it. But masculinity definitely is one of the issues that we do have that actually is counterproductive towards mental health. So once we are able to get to a point where we don't have to feel judged for looking weak or asking for help, I think that's when mental health and its efforts will make a log step.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, what do these two words mean to you, and how does it affect our community? When I say, "Hey, you have to man up."
Can I go first with this one?
Yep.
Well, to kind of piggyback off the brother just saying, like, first off, like how we, the question was asked, what does mental health mean to you? And I think, masculinity, in our community and sometimes across the board, period, is defined in many different ways. People think, being a man is, paying all the bills, or, not, looking weak, or not doing this or not doing that. So there's various, definitions for masculinity, and we got to start trying to, figure out, okay, what does masculinity really mean and what does it represent? Because until we understand that, we're not going to be able to really tell if somebody's being a man in certain situations and things of that sort. So that's something I think of. So when I hear something like, hey, you need to man up, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you mean by that? Because again, some guys have this idea of that they're more manly than other men. You know what I'm saying? Like, they think they're more of a man because they may, operate in this particular field, or they may be doing this or doing that, and that just makes them, a bigger man than that person. So I think that when somebody says something like you need to man up, we gotta watch how we say things to each other, how we talk to each other. one of the things that's very common in schools and stuff like that, how it, was mentioned yesterday that, young people, the way they talk to each other, if you sit there and you listen, you like, yo, what we doing? Why are we talking to each other like that? You have young ladies talking to men crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not respecting, these young men and things of that sort. So if it's like that at that level, imagine how it's how it is as we become adults and things of that nature. So I think in order to kind of understand what manhood is, we got to come to terms with what does this masculinity word mean, because again it's defined in different ways by many different people, just like mental health is. So saying that term manning up, to me, I think that's something that's very outdated, and we need to figure out another way to address people in their manhood. So that's just my humble opinion.
I wanted to ask a question before you had segued into that question, but I think it feels like it's still really connected when somebody was talking about kids, the students. So it seems to me that we are now all grown up, we're all men, we experiencing all different types of masculinity and different types of roles as men now, but it seems that a lot of us really could have used, some sort of, if you would quote unquote, attention when it comes to, what our mental health was, depending on where you're from. I'm from the Caribbean, and mental health is like taboo, because it
Yeah.
there's a lot of connotations that's attached to mental health per se. So when you're mentioning students being ADHD, with deficit, and things that are they're seeking medication to give students at a young age. I'm willing to bet, to bet that yes, that most of us,
Don't do
the
it.
way
Don't do that.
the mental health um, arena that we occupy and space that we occupy now as men has a lot to do with what happened to us as younger individuals. You know, especially if you didn't have anybody to really talk to, so it just felt like everything just built on. Every year you got older, that you weren't able to express in certain ways. Those attitudes kept building until you get to where you are now. So maybe you're fine, maybe you're not. It does seem like it's all connected, and we need to be paying a lot of attention to what our young black youths are experiencing now, and how we are able to address that and reach out to them. So when they get to 25, 35, 45, 55, we're not sitting there stuck. Well, how did this happen? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we knew how it happened. We were not paying attention, or we were not giving it the attention that it needed.
I mean, how much do we actually explain and communicate to our young boys or young men, or or people, really how we're feeling, or what we intend them to understand, right? Like I'm reading here, Mr. Peoples' comment about, like, when he says to his nephews to man up, it's in the context of being accountable, and I think that's a valid context, right? Just holding yourself accountable to your responsibilities. But the question goes, and this is not to knock Mr. Peoples, by the way, this is just a general statement, is why don't we actually just say that instead? Like, why don't we actually say what it is instead of using the term man up? Because some kids hearing that, you might intend it to mean one thing, but they're taking it the same way that you guys have been talking about, which is to kind of start to shut down and not really address it. So when it comes to communication as men, I think sometimes we also need to work on being a little more clear and direct with what we actually mean to say, and not what we want them to understand, right? A lot more clear in how we talk and how we communicate. And that's something that some of us men really just struggle with in general, just being clear communicators, right? Saying what we really want to say regarding emotions, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things I see often that we could do better at, you know what I mean? We really could do. Because to me, when I hear man up, I know the context with it and I understand the intentions behind it, but a lot of people interpret it the wrong way. So let's just work on removing that language out of the conversation and just go ahead and straight and be direct what we really want to say to our kids or to whoever.
Okay. So I will ask you along the lines, how do we get rid of that? What type of steps do we take to get rid of that?
I ain't gonna front. I think it just really needs to be
Hmm.
just replacing the statement with what you actually meant to say. I can't even. I'm not even gonna super science it with y'all. That's just it. It really is. It. We have to start to condition ourselves to communicate differently from how we're used to.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I
I mean, but yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that point. I was gonna say I think the root of it is communication. I think communication is the biggest step that we can take into the right direction. I'm guilty of it. I'm not the best communicator. I know a lot of people that aren't good communicators at all, but I definitely think once we become better communicators as men, I think that is when we can have the first step. And as he was just saying, just changing the whole shift in the mindset and the verbiage of it all will definitely help. But definitely communication is the first step. I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way.
nah, you good, brother. No, I would just say that a wise man used to always tell me, good habits are hard to form, but they are easy to live with. So, with that being said, like you all are saying, we just gotta, start forming better habits. Starting with communication, because communication is something that's very huge in our community that we don't talk about as well. A lot of people can't have a conversation the way we think. We should be able to have conversation, because sometimes people jump the gun with their assumptions. They let their feelings get in the way, opposed to listening to the message and not how it's being, given. But like the brother also said, when we're talking to young boys and young girls, and we, saying things like "man up," or we saying things that we interpret in a way like, oh, like, nah, I don't mean it like that. But again, we're talking to teenagers, young people who their comprehension is not on the same level as ours. So when you say things like that to them, that can completely shut them down. So in order to start changing the trajectory of these things, you know what I'm saying? It starts with habit. And again, we so used to, speaking a certain way, being a certain way. But, if we're not, trying to, work on those things and try to really get better at it, then none of this stuff is never going to change. And, we saying all this stuff, but nothing's going to happen. So we have to, do a better job with the way we communicate and trying to get our message off to young people and people in general, so everybody can have an understanding. And again, we have to be able to have real, hard conversations with each other, and we have to challenge people to think. A lot of people don't want to think. You know what I'm saying? So we're in a rough time because of the cell phone and social media era and stuff like that, and we have a lot of work that we need to do in order to get this thing going the way it's supposed to go.
Okay. You got something to jump in on Irie before I jump to the next
Yeah. So communication, huge, big. That's probably right up there. Probably number one, I guess. One of the other things that we have to also look at. Pretty much every one of us are a product of our environment. Wherever we grew up. I grew up on a sugar estate. Some people might have grown up in the project. Some people might have grown up in suburbia. Whatever it is, we're all a product of our environment, and so we are exposed to different types of stimuli. You know, but when you get older, you know, and things start to become really clear and more or clearer, you start to understand that peace of mind, especially if you're dealing with that part of mental health, has a lot to do with who is in your your circles, and the type of energy that you accept into your circles, and a lot of times, oftentimes, when you start to really, you know, chipping away and just, forming, just what that nucleus of who your important people are, you automatically realize that you are stripping away some of the things that cause you undue stress that trigger, I would imagine, some of your mental health emotions. So I think a lot of us, especially now as men, to look at the situations and the environments, that we are in. You know, we all talk. We've mentioned toxic masculinity here before, and this toxic stuff. But if we ourselves, supposed to be, leaders, and we are surrounding ourselves with toxic people, toxic, situations. It's kind of hard to, because mental health means you need clear head, you need a clear mind, good mental health wellness. You need to have clear head, clear headspace. So we need to start not only communicating, our needs and wants, but we have to be communicating with ourselves too. I think that's a big, a lot of us are not asking ourselves, sitting and asking ourselves pertinent and relevant questions. We don't necessarily need to go take somebody's couch, for whatever you're paying, an hour. But as individuals, we should be able to sit down with ourselves, because sometimes we can figure out a lot of what's causing us mental angst. Sit and ask yourself some questions. If it's 10 questions, what are those answers? And how do if how do you resolve them? If you can't resolve them after that, then maybe, yeah, you talk to somebody else. But we should be able to be asking ourselves questions on a daily basis. And I think that's a part of self improvement. And that helps. I think with mental acuity and awareness and health.
I agree with that, Ari, but I would ask, what do you do when they don't see the problems? What are some of the signs that that we see in each other that we can recognize that this person might have a mental illness or on the verge of something? What are some of them signs that we can see?
Oh, that's difficult. Ooh, I think we gonna leave this to the health professionals. Just say the right off the bat ones, because some of them are kind of hidden.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What I will add to that is that, to your point, is a lot of people aren't even at peace enough to even know that they have mental health issues. You have people who who have certain behaviors and they think it's normal, when in actuality they need to go see a therapist. I had a therapist, or a close friend of mine. She's a mental health therapist, and she told me something that blew me out the water. She said every Black person needs a therapist, and when she said it, I had to sit back and understand what she was meaning. But she was saying that a lot of Black people, we deal with trauma on many different levels, but what happens is that our society normalizes it. So when that normalized behavior becomes these behavior issues, again, we've normalized it. We have those cousins, we have those uncles, we have those friends who just seem a little bit, not all the way there. But again, we just chalk it up to, oh, that's just cousin or uncle so and so, or that's just my friend. They always been like that, but they're a great person. They got a good heart. When the actuality is that if they were able to, if they understood or knew it to address that issue, they, would actually act differently. So,
and to add on to that, man, I think for those that are on the outside looking in, and you talk about the family members that peep game, like they notice that something's going on, and then they just throw out the answer, well, this person got a good heart. We gotta remove that. To me, I feel like that's stopping the opportunity to really get to know what's going on with that person. And I think what happens is sometimes the families do peep game, and they don't want to take that extra step to find out what really is going on, because for some people, they might not feel comfortable with the added responsibility of being there for that person in a certain way. They might just don't know how to be there for that person, and they don't want to go down that rabbit hole of actually finding out what to do. Some just don't want to really dive into with that person because of the shame that it brings to the family, or whatever they think is going to be the issue, and choose not to. But in reality, those are the things that we all as members of a community and people that know people that need help need to be doing. We got to be more direct, more candid, more explorative with our friends, with our peers, with our family members about what's going on with them for real. Like when you ask somebody how you doing, be intentful. You know what I mean? Everybody be intentional. Like everybody just has that one-off answer. I'm good, I'm cool, but nah, man, like really, like what is going on? Think about different questions to ask that person, more open-ended questions. You know what I mean? Like really try to explore what it is with that person and find out what it is. Try to have a deeper understanding and conversation with the individuals that really need it, because you never know. Like you asking that person how you doing, they probably really want to tell you everything, but just because it's such a very blanket statement that it doesn't really sound like there's anything else expected after it, they ain't gonna say much.
Yeah, and that's a great point, brother. And I would add to that by saying it goes back to, I believe, being labeled and stigmatized, and like you just said, sometimes people don't want the responsibility of doing the work. People don't want to do the work on themselves. So to
Right.
get involved with trying to figure out what's going on with Uncle Joe and Auntie Susie.
That part.
I'm saying, like, nah, like I don't even want to know what's going on with myself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not about to get tapped into, because like when we get to the root of like what you may be going through, I'm gonna be thinking about my issue. Like, yo, I thought I had problems. You know what I'm saying? So now, with that being said, it's like I have to also carry the weight of my issues, and then now I'm taking on another. I won't say burden, but I'm taking on somebody else's issues as well. And again, like you saying, brother, like people got to be intentional. Maya Angelou said one time, she was like, when people ask you how you doing, like they don't really want to know. You know what I'm saying? Because if you tell them like, man, I just got fired, my wife just left me, and I'm in debt, and da 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 da, it's like it sounds like you complaining. You get what I'm saying? It sounds like you complaining and you talking about your problems, and people always be like, well, woe is me, and nobody don't want to hear your issues. And again, it all comes down to how we treat each other as people, point blank, period. Like, people be telling kids not to talk to other kids a certain way. Bullying is not cool. Don't do this, don't do that. But like we do it as adults, and we do it on the extreme level because we a lot smarter, and we got a grander vocabulary, and we know how to really pierce people with what we say. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot when it comes down to this mental health thing, and this conversation can go on for 365 days straight, 24 hours. You get what I'm saying? Because in order to really figure out these issues, you got to have these conversations to start trying to figure out, like, all right, we know what's going on. Now let's address the issue. Because again, I feel y'all when y'all say like, oh yeah, that's just Uncle such and such, that's just Auntie such and such, and she just, but it's like, no, that's a huge problem, and she needs to stop doing that, or he need to stop doing that. Because again, what about the person that comes around who has no understanding for that type of behavior? You know what I'm saying? So we got to stop, trying to hide bad behavior or certain issues that certain people may have, and we really got to start caring. And again, if you don't feel like you want to take on the responsibility of worrying about other people, like that's okay too. But if you do get involved, like you said, brother, like you have to be intentional. If you really care to solve this problem or help this person, like really ask them questions that's going to, get them to open up to feel comfortable with you. Because again, in our community sometimes, and maybe this off subject a little bit, we taught to not tell people our business, because guess what's going to happen? Everybody in the streets going to know what you're dealing with. And instead of it being looked at as, hey, I need help. I'm raising my hand and I'm saying I need help. You get what I'm saying? But then people turn that into like, oh, that's just da 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 da. Not everybody know your business without even really knowing what you're going through, but it's just out there now. So we got to do a better job.
Hey, that's a great point, B. I like what you're saying, and you wrote a book. How does your book reflect what you're talking about?
Well, damn, I mean, just thinking about mental health here, man, like, I ain't gonna lie to y'all brothers, like, growing up, I would talk to myself. Like, I used to ask myself questions. Like, I went through a situation where, I used to get mistreated by one of my older cousins. And I'm talking like, not torture mistreatment, but just like mistreatment that really used to confuse me. Like, why is this person doing this to me? And it got to a certain point where I thought it was okay. Like, all right, I know when I go around here, I'm gonna get treated like this. So I'm mentally preparing the whole car ride on the way there. Like, yo, I know this finna happen today. I just gotta be prepared. And when I was going through it, I used to talk to myself like, or God, like, hey, like I don't know what's happening to me. I know everything gonna be okay, but you know, X, Y, and Z, let's get through this. And when I, started writing this book, I spoke to some kids at a summer program today, man, and just sharing my vulnerability with them. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable and say, hey, I experienced this, I went through that, because like it was mentioned as well, people feel more willing to share things with you when they see that you're willing to share with them. Like nobody about to tell you what they experiencing and what they're going through if you're not an open book as well. I just believe that with my book, man, I want to really change the trajectory of how like young boys and young girls see education and reading and writing. Like we have to start promoting that it's okay to be smart. Like it ain't nothing wrong with being smart. It's nothing wrong with being intelligent. It's nothing wrong with sharing your feelings and saying, hey, this is what bothered me, or this is what I experienced, and this how you made me feel. We need to start having conversations because there's too many people trying to be tough, and it's like it's too much going on for that, man. So my book, talks about everything from the time I can remember, throughout my high school experience, and that's why I take pride in, I took pride in like, putting this book together, because I'm like, yo, it's like I read a lot and I work in a school and I see like for example, on my way to the school today, I looked at a list of the mandatory readings for high school kids. And when I saw that list, I said, these books are so outdated. This has nothing to do. It's not relevant. Like, forget about it not relating to our kids. It's not even relatable to the times. It's not even current. You get what I'm saying? Like, we read in books that's 100 years old, that's like totally outdated. So it's like, Brandon Vega, the space has been created for you to raise generations off of ghetto conscious, because it's not there. You get what I'm saying? And like I mentioned yesterday, instead of us complaining all the time about what's not happening, like what we need to do is look at ourselves, and we need to put ourselves inside the race, and we need to start contributing to making a difference, opposed to standing on the outside and being in the peanut gallery and saying what I think should happen.
Ooh, peanut gallery. Ooh, we did that. Ooh, you mentioned the peanut gallery? Oh no!
Right. I ain't heard it in a while.
And
I concur everything he's saying. Everything, everybody's been on point. So everybody's been on point. Everybody hitting on all pistons.
Okay, well, I'm gonna talk to you, my brother, right now, because you're the only person that's in a different state. What are some of the things that you see that are the mental problems that you see affecting the community up there?
Well, I'm not sure if you all follow anything news related in Atlanta, but Atlanta has been easily going left for the past several months. I personally feel like a lot of this deals on some level with mental health. There has been a lot of shootings on interstates. There has been people in the middle of the road, people that's just really been acting out up here. Overall, it's not everybody, but it's happening more often than it has been. One of my programs that I did with the Emerging 100, we interviewed a psychiatrist named Dr. Owens, and Dr. Owens called it COVID dysmorphia, and he was speaking about how the pandemic has shifted a lot of people's mental health, whether it made people stronger or whether it broke some people. A lot of people just, the quarantine was a lot for a lot of people. So, a lot. And if you know anybody, well, not anybody, just if it is very good to check on any and everybody, because like I said, you don't know how some people are dealing with the pandemic, dealing with quarantine. You have a lot of parents and a lot of students who had to do virtual learning. So that's a whole nother aspect that helped contribute to people's mental health. That's a majority of what I see overall up here. Of course, you see a little bit more, but a majority of what I've seen is a lot of people are starting to act out up here. And mental health, we have different things that you can do to we have resources up here that you can use that a lot of people are unaware of. But yes, they are. That's what I've been seeing so far.
Well, I want to say it's the same thing down here. That we had a rash of shootings that the police want to start cracking down, and it affecting the community. And it's usually just the kid between 16 and 20.
Yes, correct. Yeah, they're young. They're very young, man. They're very young. Some of them not even 21 yet. It's crazy. They're very young, and they're starting early, so it's definitely getting bad.
And I want to add this real quick, fellas. When we think about mental health, and please, forgive me with anybody that disagrees, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just want to share this because I'm thinking about it as I'm listening. And it's like, man, we talking about mental health, right? So, like, when I think about the type of music I like to listen to, right? I know what these people are saying are like really messed up, but I'm in tune with the the wavelength, the beat, the sound, like I'm trapped, right? But I'm able to like, yo, what he's saying is like, he can't encourage me to do nothing like that because I'm way smarter than that. But again, we got to think about like what these kids listening to when they got these headphones in. It's like the rap music like is in control of their mental health because like you got people really like, taking a drug or whatever the case may be before they go do what they get ready to do. But they also listening to that music that's really finna spike them to say, you know what, like it's on. And I'm really feeling like how he feeling in this song. And we gotta, again, be able to differentiate like, yo, what he rapping about, like he ain't really doing that. And he really not like that. You get what I'm saying? So these people are perpetuating the murder of people that look just like them. Like, for example, the song that's on the radio all the time, Spot 'em, Got 'em. Like, he telling you, like, knock his dreads off. Like, only, like, I done seen white boys with dreads, but I know when you say knock his dreads off, you talking about a black man. You ain't talking about no white man. So, again, like, we got to think about what's getting played on our radios. We got to start really going to the root of this stuff because I don't know if you brothers are familiar with the brother Kwame Brown and the things he's been doing. The exposure game is real. And again, when he break it down the way he break it down to make you realize, like, we got to look at other things like what's coming on TV that's affecting our mental health. I saw a Nas X video when I woke up in the middle of the night one night where I thought, like, I got to be either dead or I know I'm dreaming. Because I know I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing on TV. And I have a 2-year-old son. And like I told those kids earlier today, like, if this country going to be ran in the next 20, 30 years by TikTok influencers and people who can't critically think, Brandon Vega and his family taking our talent somewhere else because we not finna be, like, I want the world to be a better place for my son. And like I told those kids, like, those are the ones who going to be leading him. And if they can't make critical decisions, like, I don't want him to, be led off the cliff. Because I'm not going to always be around. His grandparents not going to always be around. Like, we all not going to always be around. So we got to really start thinking about, like I said earlier, I said, if Lil Durk, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, if all those people was writing books, more kids would be reading. You get what I'm saying? More kids will definitely be reading. But because they're not promoting that stuff, because it's easy to get on and just say, hey, kids, read for an hour. Do this, do that. But they not doing that. And they have the biggest influence. So we got to start looking at the entertainment game and how they have control over our mental health as well. So I just wanted to share that as I was thinking about it.
Man, that's a great point, a very valid point. I say that all the time to my son. Now, like, hey, you can't be believing everything you see on TV or hearing the music. They not doing that. That's not real.
WWE wrestling. That's exactly what that is.
Nah. The missus gonna kill me, but on this, I can tell you when my son walked through the house and thought he was the Flash sleepwalking. And talking about he done lost his speed force. And she looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, he's in the Flash. Like, he had to do it. And I'm like, literally, eyes wide open, everything, but he sleep. And I'm like, hey, Hey, and I have to talk to him sometimes. Hey, stop watching that TV so much. Hey, I give you a book. I even like what I try to do, give him like comic books on stuff that he like. Hey, but I want you to read. So I'm giving you something that you like, but I want you to read it instead of watch it.
Right.
Yeah, but that killed me with the Speed Force. He
Speed
get
Force.
mad every time we joke with him about it.
Oh man.
But let me see what I lost Irie for a second. The internet went. Oh, he's back. Okay.
I think everybody dropped off at least once.
At least, yeah.
Man, I'm here talking to myself. I'm like, wait a minute, where the hell? I didn't see myself on the screen. No, I was saying, that a lot of individuals are becoming parents at a younger age. And so, sometimes you find that there's not a lot of sort of break off between parents and kids, when they start becoming, listening to this, either the same music, similar music, what have you. Everybody got their iPods, everybody, earpods and everything. So, the responsibility falls on whom? We say to them, the kids, no, you should be more responsible. You should listen, but we can't do that because they're their own people. So, but the singers and entertainers, they're not necessarily taking any responsibility in terms of the lyrical content that they put out and the messages that they put out, because they just, well, I'm here to get my coins in my bag, so it's up to them to make that decision. So it doesn't seem like there's any responsibility anywhere around, when it comes to what youngsters listen to really shape and sort of keep in their mental health. So it
Well, we're
just seems like,
consumers.
huh?
Well, we're also consumers, so we're choosing
Yeah.
to purchase these products. You know what I mean? And I think if one ain't gonna do it, the other got to do it, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? If the artists that out there pushing out the images and the content that's getting people to think the way they think differently or think inaccurately on what reality is, and maybe we also have to do our part to kind of say, like, I want to hear something different, and that takes time. It really takes time, because shoot, I'm gonna go listen to something off, you know what I'm saying, something later too. You know what I mean? Like, but it also it's us like reconditioning ourselves to say that we want something better than what we're experiencing, and finding a way to kind of demand that. I think when they start hitting their pockets, the lyrics and the content will definitely change.
Okay.
It made money. At the end of the day, that's what
It
it
made
comes
money.
down to. It made
Shoot,
money.
it made money. If they flipped up on it and started pushing out more upbeat, positive, or content that really wasn't out there talking about killing somebody, doing all this other stuff, and they were still making money, they good. Ain't gonna be no issue.
Yeah, and every time I think about something like that, fellas, I don't know if y'all familiar with this line, but from the great Jay-Z, he once said, I used to want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like common sense. So
Yeah.
he basically, like, he telling us like I wanted to give my people this conscious rap, but like niggas ain't buying this. They not listening to this. So guess what? I have to talk that talk. I gotta talk about going to the Gucci store and buying everything and then hopping in my Ferrari, and I gotta talk like that because again, we, like, let's be honest, like you said, brother, like, you know what I'm saying? We are at a point where we are able to decipher and break down, like, all right, I just want to listen to this because this really sounds good, and but young kids ain't interpreting it that way. You get what I'm saying? And I remember, like, I saw music changing, like, I saw music changing from the early 2000s to like what they talk about now, when like the subject matter and the content, like it seemed like everybody now talking about like killing you. Like when Jay-Z them and all them in the early 2000s was rapping, DMX and all them, like they talking about the struggle. Nas, they talking about the struggle. They talking about like they telling a story. You get what I'm saying? They are great storytellers. Like so with that story being told about like our community and our environment, like yeah, we all know some people that throughout our younger years that got killed, died, went to prison, whatever. But they wasn't every minute they got perpetuating the murder of another black person. But now it just seems like if you ain't got no ops, if you ain't smoking on no pack, if you ain't doing none of that, like you ain't like that. And then it's like that's why I say like when I be talking to kids at my school, I look them in their eyes, like because I really want to know if you really like that. And I respect you if you stand on everything you mean, but you got to understand what comes with this. Because like I said, the person who I dedicated this book to, like, he was serious. You feel what I'm saying? And again, that's why he is where he is now, because he lived that way. But he understood, I'm gonna stand on this. And this is what he used to always tell me, like, be yourself and stand on who you are. So that's why I don't have a problem with being myself. But at the same time, when I see a young kid acting all tough and acting gangster, I gotta really like see if you really mean what you saying, because your eyes gonna tell me everything. And if you faking, you will be exposed. So we have to understand, like you saying, brother, like y'all saying, brothers, like we got to start changing like what we want to start getting, because they bury luckily J. Cole and Kendrick are who they are, so you can't really bury them. But like they don't want to pump out, that type of music and things of that sort, things that's conscious and having people think, because if you talking about that stuff, it's like, nah, you messing up our money. So keep talking about killing black people and keep talking about going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like I explained to somebody, growing up, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I thought jail was Disney World. I'm like, everybody going and I gotta go. I have to go because I'm missing out. Like, why is everybody trying to go to jail? And it has to be something that we don't know about. It's like, that's where the rainbow ends. That's where the pot of gold is. It seems like, and I'm being a little facetious, but it's like, that's how I really thought, like, I gotta go to jail. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, nah, I catch the stories on the other side, but y'all keep doing what y'all doing. I'm gonna talk to y'all later. So, again, man, we gotta do a better job with these kids, and I'm really enjoying this conversation, fellas. I just want to let y'all know that I'm feeling really good about this. So I appreciate it again for being a part of this. Thank you.
And to go along with your point, man, about you saying, oh, everybody, I need to go to jail, everybody going, that goes along with the point I made earlier about, we normalize behavior like that. So you normalize, oh, everybody going to jail, it must be popping. I got to get in there. It's because, unfortunately, you and, a lot of black people have seen so many black people enter into the jail system and enter into prison, and we also used to even it being normalized to the point where they go in, oh, we got to have a party when they get out, or, oh, free who so-and-so. No matter what they did, they could have murdered somebody. They could have did. I know y'all saw that video of the dude that tried to represent himself. Like, like these people crazy for real. Like, like, and we done normalized going to jail and done normalized recidivism and that kind of behavior so much to the point of we looking like, oh man, well, not me, but our culture is looking like, oh, they gonna get out, they only serving X and Y and Z, when the reality of it is that they were, wherever the scene of the crime, quote unquote, wherever, their mental health issues started at, if they would have been able to address at that earlier stage, then they wouldn't even be to the point where they're going to jail over and over and over like that, to get the influence of a younger person thinking that it's cool to go to jail, because they start thinking that they never get deterred. They don't have any type of mentors or anybody to change that narrative. So what they do is that now they start acting out. Now they start looking for acceptance by, doing crimes and X, Y, Z to create, the person that you're speaking of. So it's crazy, but yeah, we got to do better with not normalizing and addressing it as early as possible.
I agree, because
Yes.
how many issues, mental health issues start with people, well, come from people going to jail and coming back to society. They don't see that part. And then they get trapped in the cycle and want to keep, they're used to being in prison because they think that's home now, when, hey, it's better to be free.
that
You,
lifestyle thinking that you're only valuable in jail because when you go in, you got a certain level, of I guess normality compared to out here, where unfortunately once you get caught in the system, you're stuck in it, so that you feel like you got more power inside than outside. But that's a completely different conversation.
yeah, don't get me started on that.
Right.
But I guess all in all, one of the things I keep saying to different people that I speak with, whenever the conversation is, and I keep coming back to this point, and I say, as a country, we're all here as black men on the screen, but as a country in general, it appears to me that nobody really, okay, I can't say nobody. Most people seem to think that are acting as if last year wasn't very traumatic
Mm-hmm.
for all of us. Some in varying forms, and the big part is what I see is that everybody's just kind of discounting and pushing under the rug that last year happened, and just want to keep it moving,
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing played out, here in Atlanta, we here, New York, you know, um, Minnesota, wherever, um, is a lot of people are expressing, the things that was bothering them. I guess when they were there, pent up, locked up, in lockdown, quarantining, and all that good stuff. And now, a lot of that stuff was never addressed. Just like how we didn't address, most of us as youngsters, they didn't address, what was happening to them last year. And most people are saying, okay, it was just a pandemic, the height of the pandemic. I'm good. But are you really? I mean, and, most, when I didn't realize how bad the pandemic started to affect me. This was back in last year until I when I realizing that I was getting so comfortable being home and away from people, and just thinking just how deep the mental aspect of staying by yourself for extended period of time, not quite solitary, but it felt like solitary, and so you like things start playing on your mind. And I think that most of us, need to address the fact that, we did go through, especially last year, very traumatic for people, especially for those of us who lost lives, whether it's family or friends. And we're discounting it like it was just some normal thing. Last year was not normal at all, And I just think, for us, to be addressing, a lot of that stuff, to help what's going on with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought I was muted too. Yeah. So yeah, but and then Detroit is also saying, it sounds like it's similar to what I was saying, that we are a part of part of our environment, you know, as you were saying, seems that a lot of the problems have a socio-economic root attached to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that is definitely a big thing. Yes, because a lot of us, our socio-economic reality has not changed from youth to early adulthood to being men. A lot of it has stayed the same. So a lot of people are still having the same issues, the same problems. Some of them have even gotten compounded. Especially when you're talking about going to jail, thinking jail is this cool place to be. A lot of people are still expressing those because of the people who are in their circle and the things that
Mhm.
they make them, the choices that they're making. You
Mhm.
know, they're relegated to the choices that they're making in their communities. And a lot of it, their socioeconomic, status has not changed, so it sort of factors in. You know,
I agree.
Okay. I agree with what you're saying, Ari. You know, I will also ask, what do you think we can do? Because a lot of this, is, like you said, social, social, rooted socially. Can we change the mentality? How
Hmm.
can what? How can we change people mental aspects of us as men? Because especially how we as African American men, I'm not gonna say we have it the worst, but we have it bad. that that we can be well dressed and we still a criminal. What can we
Okay.
do to change those aspects? You shaking your head, Jay. Why you shaking your head? Go ahead on.
You because you bringing up a point that I have heard being referred to as one of the things is driving while black. That's one of the traumatic experiences that we as black men, well, me as a black man, I should say, let me speak for myself. Me as a black man has experienced driving anywhere in America, whether it could be on a well lit road, it could be on the interstate, it could be on a back road, which hopefully it isn't. But that's where it comes from. That driving while black is a part of the issues that we have. In order to start combating that, starts the conversation with the entire community, which is a way bigger conversation that needs to be had. But I think it's a lot more resistance to it. But that's one of the first steps is to have that overall stigma removed. Part of the stigma to remove to help move in towards the right direction. So yeah, it's way more to it, but I think that's at least a start.
Okay.
very
Okay.
What are
good
your thoughts about it?
resources. Yes.
Yeah, we got
I
to
will
do so. We
also,
got to do something about it.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
with
because
it.
I think I told you, Jay, we was talking about it offline
Mhm.
that I recently was traveling somewhere and I was talking to my father. We was in the same place, but I'm going to where he at, and he hear a police siren in the
Mhm.
background, and he instantly, they coming for you. I'm like,
Yep.
no, I'm passing the
Hmm.
exit. But we instantly, when we hear sirens, as black folks and black men, we start turning around and be like, hey, wait, hey, what's going on? What did I
And,
do?
and the funnier part is when you listening to music and you hear the sirens and you look around like, wait a minute, what they at? When the reality of it is, man, that's just a part of the the song chorus. So yeah, it's crazy, man. We're so traumatized by police sirens and police lights. Just given through all the years of experience of dealing with unfortunate police brutality throughout our history, on top of our own experiences that we may have experienced, whether we're driving anywhere and we're being pulled over for a reason like, oh, I can't see your tail lights, or oh, I can't see your license plate, or I can't see your tag, or your tints are too dark, if that's really a thing. There are a lot of things that we experience on a personal level on top of historical levels that all leads to that trauma. So yeah, it's just a real big ball of issues that need to be addressed. Mhm.
So
Go ahead.
I wanted to comment on what Detron was saying. I guess it this is going leading into, I guess, solutions and recourses. And his point to, I guess, the how we see, the black man and the black family. And I guess just sort of narrow it down. How are we perceived, to others, and are we the ones that are solely responsible to project that positive image of the black man, of the black family?
Mm-hmm.
Because most people seem to think that the black family is near being defunct, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's just that in a lot of instances, there is no true way where we are being how we're showcased. When you look at media, you don't see the projection of positive black families in media, and we're all exposed to media, whether it's internet, TV, whatever it is, and so there is not that strong representation of who the black man is, especially when you come to movie roles. Who are we? How are we represented in movies? How are we represented in ads?
Mm-hmm.
If most of the times we are represented at all. you know
Yeah.
so there is no one place that you can go and says, here are multiple aspects of the positive black man and black family, because the black man comes out of a black family, you know and when younger people growing up don't see that, then how are we to blame them, when they start making some of the choices that they're making? Are we ourselves are not reinforcing what it means to the positive reinforcement of a black man and the positive reinforcement of the black family unit, because that's an important thing, the black family unit. Many of us, yeah, I know we're separated and all that good stuff, but that's the strength of our culture, the black family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery, enduring slave,
Mm-hmm.
when people, the families were split up, but for those that were able to stay together per se, or the adoption of other people in the family, the family unit is a thing that kept everybody together. You know,
D-Tron dropping it up.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know
You
what?
you're making a valid point. Another point to stand on top of that, like you said, is the importance of the black man in our community. How strong the black man has been. I remember when I was growing up, we had uncles, we had grandfathers, we had fathers, we had stepfathers, we had big cousins. We had everybody of those strong black men that would help guiding the neighborhood, help guiding the families. If you didn't have a father, there was always an uncle or somebody that was willing to step in to help give that positive image of the black man to help promote the black family. Unfortunately, yes, we still do have it, and it is still alive. But I feel like it definitely needs to be stronger. There needs to be a stronger presence of the black man in the community and in society to help, like you said, help lead that charge. It's going to take a lot, but we can do it. Like I said, I'm a member of 100 Black Men of South Metro Atlanta, but we aren't. It's only one chapter. It's multiple chapters in Atlanta. It's multiple chapters throughout America, but it's still way more work and way more families and kids and people that need guidance.
The Simpson looked like he was about ready to explode. Come on with it.
No, man, I lost connection and I came back and I just got you saw my reaction to that one. Okay.
Oh, good, right?
But Irie, go ahead and I was gonna say, yeah, I know you have something to say because in a few minutes we gotta do a part two to this to be
Okay.
able to touch some of these issues that's out here and some of the solutions that we can give to the people.
Right.
So
But not being a mental health professional at all, I can only, say, what I think, should be. And I guess that comes down to resources.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes a little further back to how you get those resources. And of course, everybody's always saying, "Oh, everything is so political." Well, it goes back to politics, okay, and it goes back to voting. All right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we can't be sitting in our houses, in our apartments, on the line when and not be engaged. Because if you're not engaged, you have no idea what it is that you need, and you don't know who is able to help you. Well, if in our communities, we're, making sure that they go vote and understand why they should be voting, and the people that we're voting for to hold them accountable, because that's where our resources are going to come from. The monies to fund, centers, development centers, more people to, for young people to speak to, either in schools or in the community. These are things that are important, but we have to understand what we need to do to get those resources. So we can,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's not voting, then be engaged in some other way. Push other people, to speak on your behalf if you can't speak, for yourself, and about what it is that we need. But politics is not just, it's not all bad, but we have to, and understand how we engage, so we can start asking for the things that we need that can help us. And seeing as we're talking about mental health, we're talking about resources to help us, to develop, centers and stuff, so we can, tackle this problem, from different angles, and at different times.
One of the things I was told years ago from a professor was, being a therapist isn't enough. You got to be also an activist. You got to be someone that's in the community doing work. She said she got on panels and got on boards to make more changes, and to get mental health out there in the way that she felt like was necessary. Because again, even in the field itself, like being on certain committees, there's not many of us representing those committees. So a lot of the policies and a lot of the things that are pushed out there might not always be in our favor. So uh, I look at it as far as like being an advocate. I think the political part is also very important, and I do align morals with politics. You can't personally, you just can't tell me anything different. Um, but I do believe that what we need to do, at least on my end, one of the things that we can do is definitely work in the communities to start to dispel the negative stigma and stereotypes surrounding mental health. Like talk to people within the communities, have town hall meetings with them, something to get them to be able to have a conversation with us candidly, and for us to really clarify what it is to receive mental health services, how to actually receive those services, what those services look like, right? Like really educating people within the community about the resources that are around them, and the resources that are available to them in other ways. So that's my take on that.
I can go. So as again, Jan, we talked offline about resources, and I named some resources while we were on the phone. So I got a couple that I was able to get. A couple of my colleagues were able to chime in as well. One of the things that you can do, there's a virtual therapy center named BetterHelp. It's usually through companies, but you can go on there and see they should have decent, affordable therapy options. It's virtual. You don't have to worry about going in, and they usually link you with a they usually match you with a counselor within 24 to 48 hours, so you can go ahead and start your therapy sessions. A lot of people don't know that you can go through your healthcare provider, and they can and whoever, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Cigna, whoever, and if you contact them, they can find local mental health counselors in your area. If you're in Atlanta, you got the Fulton County Mental Health. You got the outside, you have the American Psychiatric Association, the National Medical Association. Another one that you can use, as I mentioned as well, there's an all-black therapy center here in East Point, Georgia. Women ran. It's called Day by Day Therapy LLC. They do virtual as well. And one of the last two resources that I have is you can call the 24-hour crisis prevention hotline with Mental Health America. That's 1-800-273-TALK, so 8255. And lastly, there's a black therapy group called Melanated Social Workers. Their website is melanatedSocialWork.com. And also you can find them on Instagram under Melanated Social Workers, and they'll direct you to whatever resources that they can. And if you didn't hear none of that, you can just DM me at Jared Fields MPA on Instagram, and then I'll just simply shoot you those resources back to you.
Word.
Okay. Well, Jared just gave his. So I'm gonna say, fellas, as we wrap up and the people want to follow you and get involved with some of the things you do, how can they get with you? Do you have a social media website? Can you drop that for the people?
Yeah. Is there a link that we could post it on, or?
You can send it to me and I'll post it.
Okay.
I can post it. And B, how can they get with you and get the book?
Okay. Well, I'm about to put my name in the chat. I just put it in the chat. You can follow me on Instagram at Vega Brandon underscore VEGA BRANDON underscore. And like I said earlier, I'm the founder of the Eaton Project. Everything that I'm doing is predicated around education and promoting, the importance of education and literacy and writing skills and things of that sort. And that's what I have a passion for. Because again, I was able to use the education that I also got outside of school to, help me become the person that I was, that I'm able to be today. So, as far as the book is concerned, you can catch the book on my website at www.starteaton.com. It's start eating STARTEATN.com, and you can check out, some of the other things. Me and my team have been able to develop a mentoring program. We developed a workbook for the book, and like I said, you could catch me on Instagram. The book is on the website, and just follow some of the things that I've been doing. And once again, I appreciate being on here with you guys. It was a great conversation. So thank y'all.
Okay.
Much appreciated, y'all.
All right. So Irie, you got anything to drop? This your off week, right? For
Yeah, it's my off week, but real quickly, as I'm doing that, when we go in to see the doctor, and when this is my cry out to black men. Go see your doctor regularly. Don't wait because you think it's not important. And little things in our health and our mental become big things. And we often need to be paying attention to the little things. We all, know what's going on in our bodies. We all know what's going on in our heads because we spend a lot of time with ourselves. Um, you know, so um, the health wellness definitely plays a huge part in our mental wellness. So we need to be paying attention to our health wellness. Right? So if you go to a doctor and they're not, having a conversation with you about what's going on outside of the pain you're feeling in your elbow, and they're not asking you about, what's going on with your life and stuff like that, because they too now realize that everything is connected, So the doctor you're seeing, if they're not participating in those types of conversations with you, make sure your doctor is doing that, or find you a doctor that does. So you can find me, IG, I am Chef Irie, Chef Irie Twitter, Chef Irie Facebook. And next week, not this Friday, next week Friday, Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Um, between 9:30 9:45. Yeah. Tomorrow, MIA Soul on Facebook, 7 up to 7 p.m. And yeah, and the book, the cookbook, yeah, on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. Tasty Islands Culinary Adventure in a Caribbean Kitchen. You can find that there. If you want to get it signed, you can always DM me. We can work that out too. So that's what's going on, bro. That's what's going on. So yeah.
All right. This has been another episode of the Bridge Podcast. We'll catch you next week.